Good morning, students.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, today we are going to study about the histology of male reproductive system. The male reproductive system, it consists of internal and external organs. The external organs, the main reproductive organ is the testis, which helps in the production of the sperms. It is, can you see my cursor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Testis is the main organ of reproduction, which helps for the sperm production. And epididymis, which is present over the head and the posterior part of the testis, continues as vas deferens, which opens at the posterior part of the prostatic urethra. This is for the transport of the sperms. Then we have seminal vesicles, prostate. These are the accessory glands which helps or add secretions to the semen. The secretions of which helps for the nourishment of the sperms which are present in the semen. And the penis is the copulatory organ. The urethra, it passes through the penis, and during copulation, the sperms are ejaculated. The semen is ejaculated through the urethra, the penis. The urethral opening, which is present at the tip of the glans penis, through that the semen will be ejaculated. So the external organs of the penis, the testis, epididymis, they are present in the scrotum. And the internal organs, the accessory glands, accessory organs are the seminal vesicle and the prostate. So today we are going to study in detail about the histology of the testis, epididymis, vas deferens or ductus deferens, prostate and the seminal vesicles. The testis is covered by three coverings. The outermost covering is tunica vaginalis. The tunica vaginalis, it's a sac. The testis, it protrudes into the tunica vaginalis sac. That's why the posterior part of the testis is not covered by the tunica vaginalis sac. See, this is tunica vaginalis sac, which has the parietal layer and the visceral layer, which directly invests the testis. Parietal layer is the outer one. In between the parietal and the visceral layer, there is a cavity. Minimal amount of fluid will be there in this cavity. That's the outermost covering, tunica vaginalis. Then tunica albuginea, it's a thick fibrous white sheet which covers the testis. And from the posterior part, it enters into the substance of the testis. That it enters into the testis and it sends the septa. At the posterior part, we have a mediastinum testis. From the mediastinum testis, numerous septae originate and they get attached to the tunica albuginea. So, the tunica albuginea helps in dividing the substance of the testis into different lobules. Okay, this blue one is tunica albuginea. From the posterior part, it enters into the substance of the testis. See, this blue one is the mediastinum testis. Then from there, it sends the septa to the tunica albuginea, dividing the testis into different lobules. See, different compartments. Around 200 to 250 compartments are there. Those compartments are called as lobules. See, this is one lobule, this is another, this is another, this one, this one. These are all lobules. Around 200 to 250 lobules are there in each testis. Okay. Then inside of these testes is covered by tunica vasculosa. It's as the name suggests, it's a vascular layer consisting of the blood vessels, which covers the lobules, each lobule. So these are the three coverings of the testis. Each lobule is occupied by 2 to 3 seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubules are the functional units here of the testis, which these seminiferous tubules, they are coiled in the distal part. In the proximal part, there is a straight tube. This straight tube, it joins and forms a network within the mediastinum testis, which is called as rete testis. It's a network of the tubules of the seminiferous tubules. Okay, these straight tubes, they join and form a network called as network of tubules called as rete testis. From the rete testis, the 15 to 20 efferent ductules, they originate and they enter into the head of the epididymis. These efferent ductules, they join and form the epididymis. So the seminiferous tubules which are there in each lobule, like 2 to 3 seminiferous tubules in each lobule, which have the coiled part distally and the straight part proximally. These forms the straight tubules. Straight tubules, they join and form rete testis. Then rete testis give rise to efferent ductules. These efferent ductules enter into the epididymis. Later epididymis continues as ductus deferens. It's about the gross structure, what we can see in the cross section of the testis. So we have to see the structure of the seminiferous tubule under microscope to see the type of cells present in the testis. So already you know there are seminiferous tubules within the lobules. When we cut this, you can see the cross section of the seminiferous tubule. These cross sections, they are lined by two types of cells. See, this is a cut section here. One section you can see, part of it if we highlight, then we can see two types of cells. One is the supporting cell of Sertoli, which extends from the basal lamina. See, this seminiferous tubules, they are surrounded by the basal lamina, and outside that will be the interstitial connective tissue. Over this basal lamina, the cells are arranged. So the Sertoli cells, they extend from the basal lamina to the lumen, basal lamina to the lumen, and in between the Sertoli cells, there is a complex stratified epithelium consisting of the germ cells. The different spermatogonic cells present in between the seminiferous tubules, they are in different stages of development. So near the basement membrane, we have the spermatogonia, the germinal cells which are diploid. Then they divide and form the primary spermatocytes. Then by first meiotic division, secondary spermatocytes are formed. Then meiosis II helps in the formation of spermatids. So from the first meiotic division, all the cells are haploid. The secondary spermatocytes are haploid. Then spermatids, they differentiate and form the spermatozoa. So we have the different spermatogonic cells. The type of cells in the testis. So within the seminiferous tubules, we have seen two types of cells. One is the Sertoli cell and the spermatogonic cells. Sertoli cells, they are also called as supporting cells or sustentacular cells. Then we have spermatogonic cells. Then outside the seminiferous tubules, we have the interstitial tissue. Within the interstitial tissue, we have the interstitial cells of Leydig or Leydig cells. These are polyhedral cells, acidophilic in nature, which are either singly or in groups present in between the seminiferous tubules. Surrounding this basal lamina of the seminiferous tubules, we have the myoid cells. Myoid cells are the contractile cells. They help in contraction, the contraction of which helps for the movement of the sperms. We can see the arrangement of the cells within this part of it we are seeing here. These are the Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells are the columnar cells. These are irregular in shape because they have the lateral processes and the apical processes. These Sertoli cells or the supporting cells, they help to hold the spermatogonic cells which are there at different stages of development. So the Sertoli cells, they have the junctional complexes. They have the lateral processes. The lateral process of one Sertoli cell get attached to the lateral process of adjacent Sertoli cell and help in the formation of the junctional complexes. These junctional complexes, they form the blood-testis barrier. These complexes, they divide the lumen into two compartments. One is the basal compartment, that is in between basal lamina and the junctional complex. This compartment is a basal compartment, and this compartment is a luminal compartment which comes in contact with the lumen of the testis. This is luminal compartment. So what are the functions of these blood testis barrier? The spermatogonic cells, these are diploid. So when they divide and they go upwards, these junctional complexes help to move the spermatogonic cells when they divide, helps for the maturation, and once they divide, these junctional complexes are shifted. So these cells, they go up. As the cells divide, they go up. As these secondary spermatocytes, they are haploid. Primary spermatocytes, secondary spermatocytes, they are not exposed to the human immune system because of the blood testis barrier. These blood junctional complexes, they helps to isolate the developing spermatogonic cells from the human immune system. At the early part of the development or during the development, these spermatogonic cells, they are not exposed to the immune system. If at all it is exposed, then the anti-sperm antibodies are formed, which helps to which bind with the sperms and helps in, like they they make the sperms immotile. That's why this blood testis barrier should be there so that the spermatogonic cells, they are not exposed to the blood testis. They are not exposed to the immune system. So that is the function of the blood testis barrier. They help to shift the spermatogonic cells upwards and also prevents the exposure of the spermatogonic cells to the immune system. As they go upwards, these junctional complexes, they modify themselves and help in shifting of the cells upwards. And the apical part, the spermatids are attached, and to the apical processes, they are attached until they become mature enough to get dislodged from this apical process, and then later it is transported to the epididymis. Until then, it is attached to the apical process. So this is about the Sertoli cell. The functions it gives mechanical support to the spermatogonic cells, developing spermatogonic cells, nourishment of the spermatogonic cells. It forms the blood testis barrier because it forms the junctional complexes. Phagocytosis of the extruded cytoplasm or the this senescent phagocyte, this spermatogonic cells. Then they secrete a part of the testicular fluid which is rich in fructose, which helps for the nourishment of the spermatogonic cells. Then synthesis of the androgen binding protein. The androgen binding protein is the one which helps in binding the testosterone. So when this protein binds to the testosterone, the concentration of the testosterone within the seminiferous tubule is increased. So which the testis helps for the spermatogenesis, as the testosterone is increased by this androgen binding protein within the seminiferous tubule. It helps for the spermatogenesis. Then it helps for the production of inhibin, which inhibits the FSH. Then anti-Mullerian hormone during embryogenesis. Mullerian ducts are the one which helps in the formation of the female reproductive organs, internal organs. So anti-Mullerian hormone, this one prevents the development of the Mullerian ducts in case of the male fetus. Then secretes the transferrin. The transferrin is the iron binding protein. Then it helps to control the movement of the spermatogenic cells and the release of the spermatozoa by the formation of the junctional complexes. These are the functions of the Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells may be asked as short answer. So that time you have to write what is that and the functions of Sertoli cells. Then functions of the Leydig cells or the interstitial cells. They help in releasing the secretion which is rich in vitamin C, the lipid droplets, and also the cholesterol. Secrete the testosterone, which helps for the spermatogenesis, and estrogen helps in the descent of the testis. The testosterone helps for the descent of the testis. After puberty, as it helps in the secretion of the testosterone, helps in the expression of the secondary sex characters in male, such as the pubic hair, axillary hair, appearance of the mustaches, beards. Then initiate the heterosexual drive. The increased height of the epithelial cells of the prostate and seminal vesicles, which in turn helps for the secretion of the prostate and the seminal vesicles. Here we can see the cross section of the seminiferous tubules. Numerous seminiferous tubules we can see, cut section, cross sections, and immediately to the basal lamina we can see the spermatogonia, which contains darkly stained nucleus. Then we have the primary spermatocytes, secondary spermatocytes, then the spermatozoa, which are attached to the apical part of the Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells, they extend from the basal lamina to the lumen. Here we can see the Sertoli cell. This is Sertoli cell. And in between the seminiferous tubules, we can see the Leydig cells. These are polyhedral cells in groups. Under high power, we can see this is basal lamina. Just outside the basal lamina, there is a myoid cell and interstitial cells of Leydig. These are interstitial cells. Then we have the spermatogonium, then primary spermatocytes, secondary spermatocytes, spermatids. This is the slide of the testis, which we can see under low power. Numerous seminiferous tubules we can see. These are all seminiferous tubules. Cross sections. In between the seminiferous tubules, we can see interstitial tissue with cells of Leydig. The lumen. This is the lumen. and can see the complex stratified epithelium, which is made up of the spermatogonic cells within the seminiferous tubules. This is under low power. This is under high power. We can see this is a Sertoli cell, which extends from basal lamina to the apical surface, and the spermatogonic cells. These are spermatogonia and different spermatogenic cells. Why we call it as a complex stratified epithelium? Because the cells are different. Here we have the spermatogonia, then primary spermatocytes, secondary spermatocytes, spermatids, spermatozoa. So we have different cells. It's a complex stratified epithelium. Okay, this is one seminiferous tubule, this is another. In between that we can see the interstitial cells of Leydig. Okay, so this is about the testis, the diagram of the testis. Epididymis, efferent ductules which originate from the testis, they enter into the head of the, like they extend out, join together, form the head of the epididymis. So at the head of the epididymis, we have different sections of the efferent ductules. They all join and form a single duct of the epididymis. So if we take a section of the head, then we can see the sections of different tubules. So later they join and form a single duct of the epididymis, which is highly coiled. The epididymis consists of different parts. One is the head. Head is present over the apical part of the testis. Apical and posterior part of the testis, which descends down as a body. Body is present along the posterior border of the testis. Then it continues as tail. Body and tail, they are present posterolateral along the posterolateral part of the posterior border of the testis. Then this tail will continue as vas deferens. Vas deferens is present posteromedially. So the epididymis and the vas deferens, they are present on the posterior border. This is anterior border of the testis covered by tunica vaginalis. Posterior border we have, posterolaterally we have the epididymis, posteromedially the vas deferens. So epididymis turns medially as the vas deferens. Here we can see this is head, body, tail. Tail continues as the vas deferens. Head, body and the tail continues as vas deferens. So epididymis is present posterolaterally, vas deferens is present posteromedially. The epididymis is 20 feet long, which is highly coiled tube. If we take a section of the epididymis, we can see different sections of the tubules of the epididymis. These are all different tubules of the epididymis. These tubules, they are lined by the pseudostratified columnar epithelium with stereocilia. Lumen, what we can see, is larger compared to the cross section of the seminiferous tubules. Within the lumen, we have the sperms. Under high power, we can see this. This is pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Some are basal cells. Some of them, they are tall, reach up to the lumen. With stereocilia. The function of the stereocilia in the epididymis is for the absorption. Stereocilia, they are stereocilia. They won't move. They help in the absorption of the secretions. Like cytoplasm from the sperms, which is extruded from the sperms during spermiogenesis, is absorbed by the epididymis. Then this is basal lamina. Outside that, we have the smooth muscle cells, the contraction of which helps in transport of the sperms from the epididymis to the vas deferens. These are the cells which we can see. These are basal cells. These are the tall cells and the stereocilia. And these are the sperms. Okay. And you should know what is the difference between stereocilia and cilia. About the function, about the structure. Structurally and functionally, how do they differ? You should know. This is the slide of the epididymis which we have. In the slide we can see under low power the tubules of the epididymis. These are tubules of the epididymis lined by pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium with stereocilia with the sperm in the lumen. Lumen is larger. The sections of the tubules, they are irregular. Suppose here, this is the diagram how you should draw. This is testis, this is epididymis. First difference is the cross sections of the seminal vesicle they're regular. Here they are of different shapes. That is the first difference. Then second difference is here we have lining epithelium is the complex stratified epithelium which consists of spermatogonic cells, different spermatogenic cells. Here we have pseudostratified columnar epithelium with stereocilia. So the thickness of the epithelium is less here and the thickness of the epithelium is more. Cells are more. So the lumen is very small, but the lumen here is very large. Lumen consists of the sperms. Here the sperms are present at the apical part of the Sertoli cells. And we can see the interstitial cells of Sertoli in between. The seminiferous tubules, they are lined by moid cells. Here these tubules of the epididymis, they are lined by columnar cells. Those are the difference between testis and epididymis. And histologically, by looking, you can see, you can differentiate by the epithelium, the size and shape of the seminiferous tubules and tubules of the epididymis, and the amount of the sperm within the lumen. Lumen also you can compare. So these will be testis and epididymis slides will be given for discussion and also for the spotter. For the spotters, if it is given, you have to differentiate whether it is testis or epididymis. Then the ductus deferens, which is a continuation of the epididymis at the base of the testis. It turns medially, posteromedially, and it runs in the spermatic cord, then in the spermatic cord, in the inguinal canal, then from the deep ring, it runs in the lateral wall of the pelvis, then along the lateral border of the lateral part of the bladder, then it turns medially, opens into the prostatic part of the urethra along with the seminal vesicle. The duct of the seminal vesicle and the vas deferens, they join and form the ejaculatory duct, which opens in the posterior wall of the prostatic part of the urethra. Okay, this is prostate gland, which is present near the neck or the first part of the male urethra. This is bladder. So the ejaculatory duct, it passes through the prostate gland, opens in the posterior wall of the prostatic part of the urethra. So the sperm which is produced by the testis has to go a long way. It should enter into the epididymis, then vas deferens, then here the ductus deferens, then it opens through the ejaculatory duct. Then during ejaculation, it passes through the male urethra and ejaculated. Okay, as the sperm has to go a long way and it has to go against the gravity. The wall of the ductus deferens is very thick. The muscle layer is very thick here. It's a thick muscular tube. Even we can feel the ductus deferens within the spermatic cord as cord-like structure. The length of the vas deferens is 45 centimeter. Okay, what are the other structures in the human body which have the length of 45 centimeter? Do you have any idea? Yes? Any organs or any human structures having the length of 45 centimeter? Okay, no one is there. No one is listening, class? Okay, we'll continue with the functions. The function of the ductus deferens is to transport the sperms from the epididymis to till the prostatic part of the urethra. Structure, histologically, it consists of 3 layers: mucosa, muscle layer and adventitia. Mucosa, it consists of the pseudostratified columnar epithelium or only columnar epithelium. Here we can see pseudostratified columnar epithelium with stereocilia. Then the lamina propria, which is a loose connective tissue beneath the epithelium. Then the second layer is the muscle layer. Muscle layer consists of 3 layers: inner and outer longitudinal, middle circular. Middle circular layer is very thick. It is very much developed, the middle circular layer. This is the slide of the ductus deferens. Here we can see different layers. This is mucosa, epithelium with the lamina propria. Then the inner and outer circular and middle longitudinal. You can compare the thickness of the 3 layers. So this is the thickness of the muscle layer. Then outside is the adventitia. This is the slide of the testis, slide of the ductus deferens. So a very small point you can see on the slide. If you miss that point, you will miss the slide. So small pink dot, when you see it with the bare hands, bare eyes, then under microscope also you have to search for this. This is the slide of ductus deferens. Then the accessory glands. The accessory glands are 2 glands, the seminal vesicle and the prostate. The seminal vesicle, it's a highly coiled gland which is present at the posterior part of the posterior surface of the bladder, and prostate, which is present at the neck of the bladder surrounding the first part of the male urethra. The prostate and seminal vesicle, they are present. These are the accessory glands of the male reproductive system. The seminal vesicle and prostate and bulbourethral glands, they help in adding their secretion to the semen. Seminal vesicle, it adds for around 70% of the semen, prostate gland 25 to 30%, and bulbourethral gland 1 to 5% of the semen. So the secretions of the seminal vesicle and the prostate helps in adding to the semen. Semen is nothing but the fluid which is ejaculated during ejaculation or after at the end of the copulation, which consists of the sperms and the secretions. Secretions are produced by these glands, accessory glands. To start with the prostate, this is the bladder. Prostate is present at the neck of the bladder. If we take a section of the prostate, we can see the prostate, it is a fibromuscular glandular organ. This gland consists of 3 parts. One is the fibrous muscular part and the glandular part. Fibromuscular forms the stroma, whereas glandular part helps for the secretion. This is the urethra, male urethra. Surrounding this will be the prostate gland. So, and the glandular tissue is arranged in 3 parts. The mucosal glands immediately surrounding the male urethra. They are the tubal type of glands. They open directly into the male urethra. And the next part is the submucosal, that is present beneath the mucosa. These glands, they open through the duct. These are tubuloalveolar glands. And outer part, the main prostatic glands, they're more glandular. The acini are more in the outer part, the main prostatic glands. These glandular tissue, they open into the duct, and the ducts will open into the posterior part of the prostatic urethra. The submucosal and the main prostatic glands, they open through the ducts. Here we can see the mucosal glands which are present in the mucosa. Then submucosal glands which are present in the submucosa. These are tubuloalveolar glands. These are tubal glands. And then main prostatic glands in the outer part of the prostate. This is the diagram of the prostate. When we take a section, we can see the acini. These are the acini, the glandular tissue, which are lined by simple columnar or pseudostratified columnar depending on the activity. They secrete the secretion which is there in the lumen. So the secretion, it aggregates and concentrates and form prostatic concretions. These are nothing but the aggregated glycoproteins. Later they become calcified. These prostatic concretions are also called as corpora amylacea, which are seen more in the elderly. These prostatic concretions, they go on increasing as the age advances. The prostatic concretions or corpora amylacea are the identification features of the prostate. The glandular epithelium. Outside that, we have a fibromuscular stroma, the fibrous tissue with the smooth muscles. Smooth muscles it contains. So this is the slide or diagram of the prostate. This is a slide of the prostate. These are the prostatic concretions. So by looking at the prostatic concretions, you can identify this as prostate slide. These are the acini. Acini, they are lined by columnar epithelium. These are all acini. This prostatic concretions, we can see numerous prostatic concretions. And this is the glandular tissue, acini. And in between the glandular acini, we can see the fibromuscular stroma. So this is the slide of prostate under low power. This is under high power. You can see prostatic concretions. These are hyalinized structures, glycoproteinaceous structures. This is the lining epithelium. And this is fibromuscular stroma. The prostatic secretions, they add to 10 to 30% of the final ejaculate. They help in secretion of the fibrinolysin, which helps for the liquefaction of the semen and also secretes acid phosphatase, citric acid, amylase. Prostate specific antigen is produced with the prostate, which is the level of prostate specific antigen is increased in case of adenocarcinoma of the prostate. Then secretions released during ejaculation by the contractions of the smooth muscles of the stroma. The prostatic secretions, they help for the mobility of the sperms. So these are the functions of the prostatic secretions. The glandular tissue of the prostate after the age of 40 to 45 years, it proliferates in 50% of the cases and increases the size of the gland. This is normal gland. It increases the size of the gland. As the size of the gland is increased, it compresses over the prostatic urethra. So the person feels difficulty in urination. He can't pass the urine because the prostate gland is increased in size, which is pressing over the prostatic part of the urethra. Prostatic cancer, it's a carcinomatous change of the epithelium. So it's called as adenocarcinoma of the prostate. The level of the prostate specific antigen is increased in case of prostatic cancer. This is second most common cancer in case of males. So during prostatic cancer, depending on the stage, the gland will be removed. There will be a prostatectomy should be done depending on the stage. Then seminal vesicle. The seminal vesicle, it's a highly folded gland present behind the bladder. It is present along the posterior surface of the bladder. Seminal vesicle. It opens along with the vas deferens as ejaculatory duct. This ejaculatory duct, it opens in the posterior wall of prostatic part of the urethra. This is seminal vesicle. So posterior view of the bladder, we can see the seminal vesicles. Medial to that is the ductus deferens. And this is the ejaculatory duct. The cut section of the seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicle. If we take a section, we can see the glandular tissue. You can see different sections of the gland. The cut section, this is one section of a tube. Like this, we can see numerous sections in the seminal vesicle. One section of the seminal vesicle, it consists of three layers: the mucosa, muscle layer, and the outer connective tissue layer. The mucosa, it is thrown into folds. It branches and anastomoses. It's highly branching, and the adjacent branches, the anastomoses, they get attached with each other. So it gives a honeycombed appearance. So the lumen, we can see outside this we have inner circular layer and outer longitudinal layer of smooth muscle. This muscle layer helps in secretion of this cement from the seminal vesicle. Then outside that, it's a connective tissue layer. Like this, you will get different sections. So this is the slide. This is one section of the seminal vesicle. This is another. You can see highly branching anastomosing mucosal folds. These are all mucosal folds which branch in anastomose. And within the lumen, we can see the secretion. The lining epithelium is pseudostratified columnar epithelium or columnar epithelium also sometimes. This is a section of the seminal vesicle. This is secretion, branching anastomosing mucosal folds, then outside muscle layer. Here we can see different sections. This is one, third one, and here also. These are all different sections of the seminal vesicle. The branching anastomosing mucosal folds with the secretions inside. Don't confuse with the secretions of the seminal vesicles with the prostatic concretions. Okay, that is a completely different picture. This is the acini, glandular acini surrounded by fibromuscular stroma. The prostate, these are in the center, we have the prostatic concretions. But the seminal vesicles, they are different. Here the glandular acini will not branch in anastomose, but here it will branch in. See here, it's the mucosal folds, they branch in anastomose. So branching anastomosing of the mucosal folds. These are all mucosal folds. The mucosal folds we don't get in the prostate. So don't confuse with this pink colored structure. These are the secretions of the seminal vesicle. So this is about the functions of the secretions of the seminal vesicle. It adds to 70% of the ejaculate, which is yellow in color because of the lipochrome pigment present in it. It's a viscous fluid which is rich in fructose. The fructose acts as an energy source for the sperms, and also it contains the prostaglandins. The secretion of the seminal fluid is alkaline in nature. This gland is under the control of the androgen, that is testosterone. The secretions helps to flush the sperms out of the urethra. So these are the 5 slides. To summarize, testis. In the testis slide, identification features are, we can see the cut sections of the seminiferous tubules lined by spermatogonic cells and the Sertoli cells, interstitial cells of Leydig present in between the seminiferous tubules. Epididymis, can see the cut sections of the tubules of the epididymis lined by pseudostratified columnar epithelium with stereocilia. Lumen contains the sperms. The tubules are of different size and shape. Ductus difference, star-shaped lumen. The epithelium is pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Then muscle layer is very thick. That is characteristic of ductus difference. Then prostate. Prostate is a fibromuscular glandular organ. Glandular acini, it is lined by the pseudostratified columnar epithelium or simple columnar epithelium. Then the prostatic concretions, which are the identification features of the prostate. Prostatic concretions or corpora malacia. Then a fibromuscular stroma surrounding the glandular acini. Prostate. Seminal vesicle. Branching anastomosing mucosal folds. That is the characteristic feature of the seminal vesicle. We can see different sections of the tube of the seminal vesicle. We can see the branching mucosal folds in the fallopian tube also, but we get only a single section of the fallopian tube. But in the seminal vesicle, as it is highly coiled, when we uncoil it, it measures about 15 centimeter. When it is coiled, it is 5 centimeter. So you can imagine how much it is coiled, the seminal vesicle. So we can see different sections of the seminal vesicle. Here mucosal folds, they branch in anastomose, but in fallopian tube they only branch. And we can see different sections. Okay, this is about the seminal vesicle. Any doubts about any slide?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
The microscopic structure of the testis, epididymis, the prostate, or the seminal, the commonly asked is testis and epididymis. For the short answers, they might ask the prostate, seminal vesicle, or the vas deferens. And all the slides will be there for discussion. And for the spotter, normally you will get testis and epididymis. Okay. So this is about the histology of the male reproductive organs. If you don't have any doubt, we can finish the class.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. We can conclude. You prepare for the internal
Thank you.
assessment. All the best. Do well. Read well. Then you can do well. All the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.